The sun has barely risen, but Rome is already alive with sound metal clanging, carts rumbling, distant shouting. A slow heat creeps into the city's core. From a fifth-floor room barely wider than a horse cart, a woman named Marcia stirs. She doesn't wake to sunlight, but to coughing. Her husband's rough and deep, breaking through the silence like a warning. The air is thick with smoke and the sharp, metallic scent of iron. Below, somewhere deep in the belly of their tenement, building another fire. Small this time. But no one sleeps soundly in Rome when fire whispers. This is Marcia's Rome. Not the marble-draped empire etched into textbooks, but the empire that smolders, groans, and collapses under its own weight. Part 2 of our journey into daily Roman life brings us face to face with the very real dangers of the urban poor. The firestorms, the foul stench, and the constant uncertainty. We descend into the true chaos that pulsed through the walls of ancient Roman insulae. The tenements, or insulae as they were called, were supposed to be a solution. Rome was growing faster than it could breathe. With over 1 million people packed into the city, real estate was a war zone. Landlords built higher and narrower, 5, 6, even 7 stories high, with only wood, stone, and luck holding it together. But Rome was never designed to stretch vertically. The higher the room, the cheaper the rent, and the more dangerous the living. Upper floors like Marcia's meant fewer windows, less access to water, and zero safety if fire came, and it came often. A single overturned oil lamp, a cook stove left burning, and an entire block could be swallowed in flame within minutes. It wasn't just the fire that terrified them, it was the collapse. Buildings were rarely regulated. Many were built by speculative developers using the cheapest materials they could find, stone on the bottom, timber on top, with floorboards often weak enough to crack beneath a child's step, crumbling facades, leaking roofs, rotten beams, the language of survival for the Roman poor. Down in the street, slop jars are emptied. Not into a drain. Rome had few that reached the tenement districts. No, they're hurled from windows. Raw sewage, human waste, rotten food, blood from butchered animals. All of it mixes into a steaming river that snakes through alleyways. Even the rats are wary. Marcia's son, a boy of 7, climbs down the crumbling stairwell barefoot. He knows to hug the wall too close to the center, and you risk falling through. Carries a clay jug for water, but the well is 2 blocks away, and even that is crowded with slaves and children. If he's lucky, the water won't be cloudy. Disease was not an accident in ancient Rome, it was the price of survival. Flies buzz around the tenements like kings. Malaria, dysentery, tuberculosis, the quiet killers that thinned Rome's population more efficiently than any war. Doctors, if they came at all, were reserved for the rich. For everyone else, herbal remedies, whispered charms, and hope were all that stood between the sick and death. Yet through this filth, Rome thrived. Because even in its darkest corners, it worked. Vendors pushed carts selling olives, bread, and spoiled cheese. Children played dice in alleyways. Women gathered at communal fountains, not just for water, but for information gossip, safety tips, warnings about landlords or police. The watchmen, known as the vigils, were Rome's firefighters and night guards. Underpaid and poorly equipped, they did what they could. But Rome burned constantly. In the time of Emperor Augustus, the city saw major fires every few years. In 64 CE under Nero, it burned for 6 days. People like Marcia lived knowing that everything they owned could vanish in an hour and no one would help them rebuild. So they adapted. Beds were made of straw to carry easily. Valuables, usually just a cooking pot or a wooden figurine of a household god, were kept by the door. If you heard shouting in the night you didn't wait, you ran. At night the city changed again. The moon didn't shine in Rome's lower quarters. The buildings leaned so closely together they blocked most natural light. Torches weren't used on upper floors, they were too risky. So entire families huddled in the dark, listening for rats, thieves, or the groan of the building shifting in the wind. And yet there was life. Marcia prays to her Lares, the household spirits burning the smallest sliver of incense she can afford. Her son sleeps curled against her, and somewhere outside, a neighbor plays a reed pipe. The sound floats into their tiny room like a lullaby. Even in suffering, Rome gave its people rhythm. What historians often forget is that these people were Rome. They weren't senators or soldiers or scribes. They didn't write their names in marble, but they made the bread, mended the sandals, carried the water, birthed the next generation. Their stories may be forgotten by time, but the city would have fallen without them. Marcia is fictional, but her life is not. Her world is stitched together from records, ruins, and reports written not by her, but about people like her. The poor in Rome didn't leave behind memoirs. Their voices echo through court documents, graffiti, archaeological evidence, the scratch marks of lives lived in the shadows. As we close part 2, we leave behind the broken walls of the insula and descend even deeper into Rome's working economy, its laborers, markets, and public forums. We will walk among the slaves, the bakers, the artisans, the ones who made the city move. Because the deeper you go into ancient Rome, the more clearly you see. It was not a city of emperors. It was a city of survivors. Dim your lights. Reflect on the fires you can't see. And join us next time as we continue this journey through the forgotten corners of the Eternal City.